Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today we've got a Hellcat, and no, it's not an evil feline or a hopped up muscle car. It's the latest from Springfield Armory and their concealed carry line, and it's a single stack and a half, super small concealed carry gun that holds either 11 or 13 rounds depending on which magazine you put it in, and it's actually got a couple other really cool features. So one of them you can see there is the sight, which I'll show you in a second. So let's pick this thing up. Start with, of course, it's unloaded, and you can see that polished feed wrap. That's one of the features that all of the XD and XDM series have that's carried forward to this gun. One thing you'll notice from the XD and XDM series that didn't carry forward is the grip safety. Now this still is a drop safe weapon. It has the split trigger like Glocks and many of the others to prevent inertial pulls, and it has a striker block, so which I'll show you when I get it apart. So it is drop safe, but this was a polarizing thing. A lot of people hated it, a lot of people loved it, most people didn't care, and that grip safety is not present on this gun, which also means you can put sleeves on it if you need to make the grip a little thicker, which Hammer might do, just to fit in your hand if you've got larger hands. A few of the features that it's got is primarily its size. It's 6 inches long, it's between 4 and 4.5 inches tall depending on which magazine. If you have the flushest of the flush base plates, it's 4 inches tall. If you have the extended magazine, it's 4.5. So you do have a very small gun with quite a bit of capacity. It's got a shorter grip than a lot of them with 6 or 7 rounds of capacity. We kind of showed that in the quick first look we did earlier in the week. And it's 1 inch thick. So it's a little thicker than some of the single stacks, not by a whole lot, a couple tenths of an inch. But with that minor thickness, you get a significant upgrade in capacity. Also, look at the sights. It has U-dot, and a lot of times you'll hear the Glock ones called U-dot, and they're kind of more of a square dot. This is actually a U. The back is just white. It's a bright white paint. The front is a tritium fiber optic sight that also has a ring around it. Yeah, we actually got it. Right there. You can see a nice ring around it. So when you're using these sights at the range, it's really clear and easy to see. There's enough of a gap that you can find your target, but not so much of a gap that you're sloppy. It's really easy to pull nice groups with this. You do have to get a good grip on it, but this texture that they've got really does fit. They call it an adaptive texture, and it's 2 heights of little pyramids. The tallest pyramids are chopped off, and the lower pyramids still have their point on them, so that when you get into it, your skin gets into it and grabs it. But it doesn't feel abrasive or sandpapery. I'm going to try to put a picture up on screen because it'll be impossible to focus on this. So you can see, even with the picture even zoomed in, you can't really see the little pyramids, but that's how they describe it. Looks like sandpaper, doesn't really feel like sandpaper, but it does fit in your hand and hold nice. And it's all the way around the grip, even where you can put your thumb. There is no texture on the front here to put your finger. For some odd reason, they've got some texture on the front of the guide rod, but I wouldn't recommend putting your finger there when you're shooting it. And there's even a little bit here to center your finger for keeping your finger away from the trigger, whether you're left or right-handed. And to that note, the magazine release is reversible. The slide stop slide release is only on the left side for right-handed shooters. But overall, the gun is really easy to use. One thing you will notice about the guide rod is it sticks out a little bit. That's not a defect or a bad design. It's kind of designed to be a little bit of a standoff. So if you're in an up and close and personal situation, it won't push the gun out of battery. It'll hit this first before hitting the slide and pushing the slide out of battery, ensuring that the gun will still operate. There's a couple different, I've seen that in a couple different guns from different manufacturers in different ways. Some will put a flange here, but this actually a pretty good little design for that. The height of it and the weight of it and the size of it make it perfect for pocket carry, inside the waistband, deep conceal. It only weighs 17.9 ounces. That did make it a little bit on the snappy side, but not ridiculous. It was still comfortable to shoot and pleasant to shoot, but it will want to flip a little bit more than a larger gun, mainly because of the weight. The trigger on this is a little bit unique. It does have the split trigger like Glocks and many others, but you notice when the thing is down, the trigger is basically flat at the face. It has a little bit of curvature around the edges, and it's a little bit rounded, but it's pretty much a flat face trigger, which seems to be kind of being popular these days. Maintenance of it is easy. We'll get to that a little bit later in the video, show you how to take it apart. It also comes in an optics ready version. In the optics ready version, there's a plate here that you can take off and put a red dot on it. Didn't get that version of it because it seems to kind of defeat the purpose of what this gun is for. You know, that ultra deep conceal. Once you, by the time you put a red dot on it, it's starting to now limit your options of where you can put it. But if that's what you want, then it's available to you. If you take the flush mag, which by the way does come with a pinky extender from the factory, but you just use a pick right there and push that out of the way and you slide it off. It comes with the replacement base plate. It's nice and flush. When you grab it, you're really a two-finger grip. So whether you like to put your pinky out, put it up under the mag, whatever you go, your two-finger grip. And then if you put the extended mag in, it integrates nice and smooth like all the XDMs do and the Springfields do. Now you're a full three-finger grip, and this mag's giving you another 2 rounds capacity. You could even really carry it with that mag in it. So overall, they've really kind of thought through all of the features that you might need to have. There's a number of holsters available on the market. Right from the factory, you can, right now, as you buy the gun, there's available holsters. There is this alien gear, which it fits nicely into. Now the alien gear does have adjustable tension, and it comes with these extra little cushions that you can use to adjust the tension, but this is meant to have some tension on it with your belt, so you would adjust it to start with. It'd be a little bit loose just sitting here, but by the time you put any tension on it from your belt, it's going to stay put. The other holster that's available readily is this crossbreed. This is a much lower profile holster. It has much tighter retention right from the get-go, and it has this little screw here, so you can adjust the tension on the trigger guard, and that's what keeps it in place. And you can get a number of different little add-on clips and all sorts of accessories. Unlike a lot of guns that come out, you want to carry them from day one, but you can't because you can't get holsters for them. They're doing what a lot of manufacturers are doing now and working with the holster manufacturers in advance to make sure there's holsters on the market. This gun, when Hammer picked it up, he ordered those holsters and they came within a few days, so you can really get started fairly quickly with it. A couple other quick features before we actually take it apart. It has a single slot Picatinny rail. Don't worry about the fact that it's a single slot. The aftermarket has really dealt with that well because Glock's been a single slot for a long time, so they're used to having the adjustment for it. And it has a nice undercut in the trigger guard to get your fingers and your hand really high up there. Nice beaver tail. You're not going to get slide bit by this even though it's small. So ergonomically, it's really easy to live with. Price is pretty reasonable too. MSRP is $5.99, but even now when they're scarce, you're still going around $5.30. And the optics ready one's only about $30 more, and that's unusual. They're usually quite a bit more for the optics ready version. And I might have that backwards. It might be $5.99 for the optics ready and $5.69 for the one that's here. But they're now kind of settling right around $4.99, $500 in online as they're starting to become available. So it's not an expensive gun for everything that you get. It's melanite coating, so it's going to be durable. The barrel, the slide, and everything else. And it is stainless steel. So overall, you've got a good quality finish. So let's take it apart, which is actually quite easy to do. You lock it back. Now, the only thing that's a little bit difficult is you have to flip this lever up, and it can be a little bit of a tight lever to push up. It may loosen up a little bit over time. Release it, and you do have to pull the trigger, and then it separates. You'll have a nickel boron coating on all the sear surfaces and components associated with the fire control group. That makes it really smooth. That gives it a nice smooth trigger. Stripper ramp is very highly polished. Has a double guide rod, similar to the Glocks. And then the barrel. Now the melanite coating and Glocks are doing the same thing. Right after the first box of ammo, you kind of get this scuffing. It's smooth. When you run your finger across it, you don't feel it. And it won't go any further than that. And the new Gen 5 Glocks are doing the same thing. I don't see any problem with that. With this being stainless steel, and of course the melanite actually penetrates in. So overall, I don't see this as a rust or corrosion issue. Highly polished feed ramp. It is conventional rifling. Get some light in there. You can see the conventional rifling. And typical of Springfield, everything is well machined and well done. And if you were to look at the barrel from the side, you might kind of mistake it for a Glock barrel because they're very similar in design characteristics. And then if I go to the slide without the barrel, there's a few relief cuts and things like that. Here's your striker block for the safety. Overall, just one machine, no extras, nothing missing, no burrs. I didn't have to do anything to this gun from day one. Drop the barrel back in it. Drop the recoil spring back in, lock it back in place, and it does do a pretty good job of self-centering. And then let's look at the frame. Again, nickel boron coating on the fire control group. Nice robust rear rails. Front rails are integrated with a locking block, so that can be replaced if it gets damaged. Turn it a little bit, get some light on it. You'll see a little bit of initial wear from being run, but that's pretty normal. It'll start out that way. And then a nice polished initial feed ramp at the bottom. Overall, well designed. Now that I've got the slide reassembled, got the frame in my hand, putting it back together is as easy as taking it apart. Slide it on, lock it back, flick the lever down, and you're back in business. So like any of the XDM, XD, and XDM series, along with the XDS, it's quite easy to live with, quite easy to maintain. I forgot to show you one thing while I had it apart, so I'm going to take it apart again real quick. The striker has got a slightly different design to it. And when we first looked at the brass, it almost looked like the striker was dragging, but it's actually not. So I'm going to push the safety down and push the striker forward. See if I can get it turned right. Might be if I turn it through here. There, that's it right here. You see the striker is not a pin. It's not a little thin pin sticking out. It's more kind of like a little shovel with a bit of a cant on both sides. And it's fairly thick. What that does is it makes a bit of a kind of a rectangular detent in the primer, and depending on how soft the primer is, it'll be a little deeper. So it looks like a drag, but it's actually not. But one of this should actually eliminate the risk of the pin breaking. A lot of these smaller guns have just a kind of a thin pin sticking out, and there's been different problems on different other manufacturers with them breaking. This one actually should be pretty solid. Overall, they've kind of thought through some of the things that have plagued some of these smaller guns that have come out and tried to engineer a solution to them in what they've done before they get going. One other thing I'll show you is if you put the XDM and the other magazines side by side, it's almost hard to tell. It almost looks like they're the same size. They're actually not. The magazine is a bit thinner. The XDM magazine won't go in. It'll go in just as far as the bevel. So that's part of what makes it smaller. But it's almost an imperceptible difference. Yet they're still able to get that 1-inch thickness. The packaging that this comes in is a little bit unique for these. You're kind of used to the XD series, the XDS series, all coming in a suitcase. They actually come in a cardboard box. And inside the cardboard box, there is a really well done little pouch to put the gun in. And it came with the flat base plate in this little section. Of course, we swapped it out. I put the pinky extender back. The pinky extender makes it a 3-finger grip on the short mag, makes it back towards that 4.5 inches tall. Does not add any capacity. So, do it either way you want. But this is really a well set up little design for this. The manual actually kind of brings along an interesting concept. Down here in the corner of the manual, it mentions that it's the same manual for all Hellcat models regardless of caliber. Well, right now it's only 9mm, but this would imply that other calibers may be coming along, possibly 40. And on their website, they'd call it the Hellcat series, which again would imply that they're really going to expand this line if it's popular. And it's very possible that they may do some of the things like Sig has done with the XL and the SAS and all the different variations of it. So I think, since this probably will be popular, I think you can look forward to some enhancement by the manufacturer to the overall line. And if this isn't the one you want, it very well may come out with something that is the one you want. Last thing is, let me show you the trigger. It has a trigger somewhere between the XDS and the XDM, kind of similar to a Glock. A little bit of take-up, but not significant. A nice, crisp, sharp break, which if you're used to a softer break, this is more of a crisp break. The reset is a long-ish reset, not quite all the way out, but getting close. And then, if I do it again without letting it out, got an audible tactile reset, and then a little bit of take up to get back on the wall, and then a break. It's actually a very nice trigger, especially for this size gun. A lot of times these guns in this size category end up having heavier triggers and longer triggers. The whole, they want to get it more like a DAO. This has actually got a pretty decent trigger. And when you figure for roughly the same size footprint as the P365, you get one more round in each of the two magazines. And it does eject the mag quite well. So if you're in that, I need to change mags during an event, you're going to be able to get the mag out without having to worry about it hanging up or dragging. So I think they've kind of hit this out of the park. I think this gun is going to be quite popular for what it's intended to be. Deep conceal. Could be used as home defense. I mean, at this point, you've got 13 rounds capacity. So it's even viable as a home defense gun. This could be one of those holster to nightstand to holster. So one other thing, if you haven't seen our first look video, go take a look at it. It's more than a first look. We take about 9 different guns. The only one we didn't have is the P365. We take about 9 different guns, and we just kind of do side-by-side size comparisons. Fairly quick. We don't go into a lot of details, but you can get a good idea between Glock 26, the XDS, and all the popular guns that would be competing with this, what the sizes are. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up. Share, subscribe, click that bell up there if you do to get notified. Check us out on Gunstreamer, Patreon, Facebook, and have a great day. Thank you.